Hello, in this lecture, we'll discuss how to read JSON files. Sometimes when you get the data, it may have an extension of JSON. And what is this? It stands for JavaScript Object Notation. And it's like a PDF document that it's very popular because it's independent of the machine. So people like to use transfer the data using this format because it can be easily read in other machines as well. Especially that it's processed with a JavaScript parser, which most of the web browsers do have. And what they have is it's like a Python dictionaries of dictionaries. Typical format looks like it starts with this curly bracket like a dictionary, and it has a key and a value. And sometimes it may be more complex with a multi-level, that it has a key and then have multiple, the value consists of multiple dictionaries like this. And actual data may look like here's a key and here's the value, key and value. But also it may have a key which consists of a dictionary that has other keys and values like this. So let's take a look at how to read this file. Okay. So this is largely taken from this Ankit Goel, and here is his Medium website. And you're welcome to refer to this. I'll basically just be introducing this code, and the GitHub has his files as well. So it has, again, an object and then some values, the arrays, and it can be a list of values, dictionaries, and such. And reading it, sometimes it's very simple, especially when it only has like a single hierarchy, that it has key and value, key and value, and key and value. And it's very easy. It doesn't have a nested list of dictionaries. But when it does have a nested list of dictionaries, then it gets tricky. So let's see how that works out. So let's first import the JSON and Panda. That's what we read. And I will use that website's pre-made data. It's in here, but I downloaded on my local folder. So let's get a simple level 1 JSON file. So there are a couple of ways of reading it. The first one is look at the JSON, the library that we imported, and read it. So this is probably the safer way of doing it. Let's call it data 1. How it looks like is basically simple. Here, enclosed in a list, you have one dictionary that has key and values and multiple, and yet another dictionary, and then it comes with this. So it's a very simple structure. Another method to do it is to utilize the Panda read JSON, and then you can have this file read in. And how that will look like is, well, it just converted into Panda data frame. So, and you can of course save it like this, what we usually do, convert to CSV and save it. And when you save it, it will look like this, like a CSV file, isn't it? So far, so good. But if sometimes you come across with multiple nested files, like here, that the example is made by the original article, and when you try to read that, read JSON, what will happen is that, and it will crunch multiple nested layers into a single column, which is not really what we want. So what do we do in that case? We need to what we call flatten the data, and JSON normalize is a nicer way of doing it. So let's try to read it. So again, we're gonna use the JSON libraries load function and read that. So call it data2, and data2 looks like, now you can see it, it not only have the key and value, but then under the results, there are yet another key and values and keys and values and such. So it's kind of a nested structure. And what we can do is that we can use the JSON normalize and data too. And then it will do stuff like this. One thing to notice though is that it will do parse the nested structure, but once it gets out of the nested structure, and let's look at this here again. Actually, there were at the end like the scalar and all this kind of meta information, what we call, and that's missed out in this panda. At the last one is here. This was David's wooden score, which is like here, isn't it? So it's not really. It's missing out this. So how do we get that information? Well, you can actually set that the original number cluster scalar family min, that was the metadata here, isn't it? You can actually specify it as a meta and then not just the results, which was not just the results here that to parse, but also we can have the metadata. Data 2, I guess. Then what will happen is it will actually get the last scalar and these kind of metadata as well. Okay, well, that's cool. You can even rename the prefixes. So it's data 2. The prefixes. So let's read it. So we actually had it like the records prefix as dbscan. So everything for the records that's been nested structure scanned is dbscan and then the starter name. Whereas the metadata will have config parameters prefix. So everything that's a metadata have the prefix like this. So you can actually nicely rename the prefixes to for your own better understanding, the clarity of the understanding. Yeah. And then, of course, you can save it on the local drive as usual. And what you see here is that, well, it now nicely has scanned the flattened structure where all the records are starting with the prefix dbscan and the metadata will start with config parameters. And you can see that it's all nicely parsed into a data frame, right? So this is how to read in a JSON file. Thank you for watching this video.